Welcome to High Infidelity, the best cheating videos on YouTube. If you enjoy this content, remember to subscribe and turn on notifications. Now let's get into the video.
I, 26 female, just found my boyfriend, 28 male, on an adultery sub. We have been together for 5 years. I thought I was going to marry this man, but I suppose not. I just installed Reddit after a buddy suggested it to me. After a while, I figured out how to use it right and spent a lot of time on here, generally researching new subs. I was reading a topic on an infidelity sub when I saw someone suggest an adultery sub for cheaters. I clicked on it out of curiosity and became. It's full with remorseless cheats, and reading their postings made me shudder. But it was also fascinating to learn about the cheaters' point of view and how horrible they are. I was reading one of the postings, and the circumstance that the individual was discussing reminded me of something that occurred a few days ago with my partner and myself. My boyfriend's deceased dog's name, as well as the dog's birth date, served as the username. My stomach sank to the ground. I opened the profile and went over everything. For an hour. I'm very certain it's my boyfriend. So many of his recent postings correspond to what he's been up to. I also received several honorable mentions. His profile is full with him asking for advice on how to manage his relationship with the lady he's been cheating on me with. And the shocking thing is that everyone on that sub gives him advice. I asked him yesterday whether he had Reddit, and he denied before I could blink. He said that he considered Reddit to be uninteresting and that he had deactivated his account a long time ago. I also went through his phone and discovered nothing, indicating that he's using his laptop. So there's that. The password he gave me a while ago didn't work. I've been praying for a long time that I got the incorrect man, but every time I go back to confirm, I'm even more certain that it's him. To think that every time I assumed he was at his parents' home, hanging out with his friends, or remaining at work, he was really with another woman, makes me want to disintegrate. How are these individuals able to be so cold and cruel? How can he mislead me in this way? Everything seems like a nightmare. What should I do now? Do I tell him I know about his hidden Reddit account? Should I watch his actions and catch him red-handed? That's what a buddy suggested me to do. Is there anything further I can do about this? My brain is a jumbled mess, and I can't think properly. Update. The next day, when he was at work, I picked up my belongings from his apartment and took his with me. Many people suggested that I ghost him, and as enticing as that notion is, we were together for 5 years, and I don't believe I'm strong enough to do so. So I simply left his belongings at his place, and later that evening, I texted him to tell him I was breaking up with him. I didn't bring up the infidelity at first, just a handful of reasons why he might be a jerk at times and why I deserve to be with someone better and more mature. Someone in the comments. Connection with the lady public on social media, which was followed by another email because he didn't want to harm me and wanted to clear up any misconceptions. They're apparently in love, and I shouldn't blame his infidelity on me since it's all his fault because he's a jerk and blah blah blah. I didn't react to it either, and I've since deleted the email. But he's correct about one thing: he's a pig. I hope he is cheated on repeatedly till he snaps. I believe this was the most ridiculous method I could have discovered his infidelity. I'm not sure how fortunate you have to be to come upon a post posted by your partner on such a popular app. It's terrible to think I would have never found out and would have married him. I'm glad to whomever or whatever brought me to that post, but it also terrifies me a lot. I'm not sure when I'll be able to trust someone again, but I'm hoping to be able to create a connection with someone again. For the time being, I'm going to eat a lot of junk food and weep. Story 2. Cheating girl lost it. This is a genuine tale from my undergraduate days, many years ago, and it did not directly involve myself, but rather a buddy of mine. Anyway, it was my junior year, and I was a member of a fraternity. This freshman began school and joined a fraternity. I'm not going to lie, he was really attractive and outgoing. He'd had a girlfriend in high school, no longer, and wasn't a virgin. I believe he had with one girl. But as you can expect, he drew a lot of attention at our school. He didn't even have to try since the girls were all over him. From freshmen to seniors. But around the middle of freshman year, this one sorority lady with whom we went out began to express a strong interest in him. Her first year at the school was also her first, although she was a junior who had transferred. She had a pleasant demeanor and was quite sociable. For years, she had a long-term lover at home who she would not quit speaking about. Anyway, she had been suggested that I mention your OPSEC needs work. So the final message I sent him was, "Oh, and incidentally, your OPSEC needs work." After that, I blocked him, as did my pals. I informed my parents that we had broken up. We just have a few shared acquaintances, which he may maintain since they were aware of his infidelity all along and never informed me. He contacted me a day later since he was prohibited everywhere else. It was a lengthy explanation of how the affair with the other lady began since I earned the truth. He called himself names and told me that I deserve better, and that he'll let me go so that I may find someone who isn't a pig like him. He said that he was going to start counseling soon to work on himself, and that he wanted to stay friends with me since he didn't want to lose me entirely. I'm not sure whether I should trust anything he says. I erased the email because I kept reading it over and over, and I need to go on with my life. Also, he recently made his flirting with him for a long, and even when she was drunk. She would sit on his lap and joke about his pushing her limitations as a nice girl. To be fair, this girl had an average face and a decent figure. He wasn't especially interested in pursuing her and assumed she was kidding about doing anything. But one night, one thing led to another, and they all left the pub together. We become quite close. He didn't tell many people about it, and I could have been the only one. I wasn't there, obviously, but his version of what happened was this. And I'm sure he spoke the truth. She informed him flatly that she needed him and that he needed to return to her place. She adored her guy and planned to marry him, but she would not be sorry. It was strictly a one-night-only event. She repeated it all night, making him pledge not to ask again in the future, for one night only. They slept with each other 3 times. Sure, it takes 2 to dance, but he honestly felt it was no strings at the time, since he didn't have a girlfriend. Anyway, after their meeting, everything appeared good, and we all hung together. There were a few looks while he was talking to other females, but nothing substantial. Then, a few weeks later, he informed me she attempted to stealth booty, call him late one weekday simply to hang out with him. He rejected since he wasn't interested in her beyond or anything, and he believed a cheating FWB thing would lead to problems. He also had a variety of additional possibilities, lucky. Later on, he told me she did it every few days, and one time she sounded really intoxicated and became agitated and provocative over the phone, telling him he would not be sorry for coming over. He rejected each time, saying you have a partner, etc., and she said, I know we don't have to do anything, etc. I believe she got the point after a few weeks and stopped calling. Her boyfriend abandoned her around 6 weeks later, around the time of her sorority semi-formal, her words. She invited my buddy to accompany her since she didn't have a date, and he respectfully rejected. I was there when this occurred, and she became quite unhappy. She drew him aside and yelled at him in hushed tones. He explained that it was simply as friends going on a date, and since she felt ashamed over being rejected, she couldn't go alone. Meanwhile, it's nonsense since you can hire a hotel room at these events and almost everyone has that night. He informed me that if she hadn't been drunk booty calling him before, he would have gone and with her, and we joked that he didn't mind being a gigolo, the girls pay for the event, hotel etc. But he didn't want the controversy right now. So, I think this gal had a mental breakdown. I feel awful for her since she was just abandoned by the man she purportedly intended to marry one day. But she essentially went around telling everyone that she and my buddy had been involved, that he had chased her despite the fact that she had a boyfriend, that they had slept together several nights, and that he had strong affections for her. Everything is a lie. She told them she was furious because now that her lover had rejected her, he was acting like a coward, pretending not to feel anything and refusing to attend the event with her, as if he was embarrassed of her. Fortunately for my buddy, Lucky, he was given the benefit of the doubt, maybe because he was so attractive. Girls would approach him and ask if it was real, etc. He wisely didn't say anything nasty about her, simply that it wasn't true, it was one night, and so on. After this incident, he stopped talking to her for a few weeks, and she apologized in general and asked if they could be friends again. So he responded, "Okay, for the purpose of everyone having a good time together." So after a few weeks, one of my friend's back home buddies came to visit for the weekend. He was well aware of the circumstances with this girl. Basically, the lady begins approaching the back home buddy and sleeping with him. My buddy was not at all jealous, didn't care, and urged him to go ahead. So the following weekend, she bombed and got in my buddy's face at the bar, asking whether his friend liked her, if he was jealous, and if he was attempting to be grabby with him. He walked away from her, saying it was between her and his buddy. In the end, I suppose things might have been worse. The school year was over. He maintained his distance from her for the following year, sometimes socializing in groups. She never phoned him again and just flirted with him briefly.